Welcome back to the channel, YouTube, and thanks for joining me for another video. Before we get started on today's project, we need to make a little room here in the shop. That way we have space for working on it. So how's about we get into it? Okay guys, now we got the shop cleaned out, ready for to start a project. And in a previous video I mentioned I was going to show you what was in these boxes, so now the time has come. I purchased a MIG welder. Now I've been wanting a MIG welder for many years now because I've always just stick welded everything. And I love stick welding, but it's just a much slower process. So I've been researching for a while now which MIG welder I wanted to buy. I knew that I did not want to go with one of those little 110 wire feed welders because I think those things are a piece of crap and really aren't good for much other than really light gauge sheet metal. So I wanted something more versatile that I could pretty much do anything with. This particular machine is basically the equivalent of the Millermatic 252 without all the fancy digital readout and all that stuff on the front. It's the more basically stripped down version. But this is a 280 amp machine, and it is capable of being wired up for 3-phase as well. So it is essentially an industrial size welder, which is exactly what I was looking for. I was also humoring the thought of one of like the inverter welders that can do either the 110 or 220, and ultimately, I didn't want to go with one of those because they just didn't seem like they were going to be able to hold up to what I wanted them to do. This thing also has a much higher duty cycle than what one of those machines would. So ultimately, this costs more than one of those smaller machines would have, but I'm going to be much happier in the long run, and I'll have this thing probably till the day I die. So it was worth spending the extra money on it. And by the way, after I get done showing you everything, at some point I'll throw up on the screen what the price of everything here was in case someone wants to go with a similar setup. And a little backstory on me, I was a welder fabricator professionally for 20 years. So I do know a thing or two about what I'm talking about here. And I've tried many different machines over the years. So like I said, this is ultimately the one I wanted to go with because I know it'll do everything I want it to do. It is also capable of having an aluminum spool gun hooked up to it if you want. I did not opt for that particular accessory at this time because I don't really need it. But maybe, who knows, maybe down the road I will. So on to our next item. We purchased a gas cylinder so that we can do both MIG and a dual shield flux core with this thing. We don't have to do just an inner shield or self shield flux core. So I purchased a 300 cubic foot, which is one of the largest argon cylinders you can get. Now I did look into buying one from like a gas supplier such as Airgas, Praxair, Lindy Gas, whatever. And it seemed like going through them was a lot more expensive. I also had no intentions of renting because it also seems like renting is a lot more expensive if you're not like an industrial shop where you're constantly having the cylinder swapped out. Like, it'll take me a while to burn through a tank of gas. So in the long run, it's more budget friendly just to buy your own. Costs a little more up front, but in the long run, you're not paying that rental charge. But anyways, buying a cylinder through a gas supplier seemed a lot more expensive. So I went online and I found a place called Gas Cylinder Source. I'll throw a little picture of the logo up. Guys, they were awesome to work with. Their prices were amazing, and they stand behind their products with their customer service, because the cap here, you'll notice the cap doesn't match the tank. Well, the original cap, which I have right here, it actually did match the tank. So what happened was, in shipping, and I won't say who the shipper was, but in shipping, that's the whole. I didn't rip this box open. This box came ripped open like that. They were not very gentle with this thing, and they ended up damaging the cap. So the cap wouldn't even thread on and off very good anymore. I contacted Gas Cylinder Source, and they asked for a couple pictures just to see the damage, so they could contact the shipper and probably, I don't know, whatever they do with them. And they said, we will send you a new cap out immediately. And I think it was within 2 days I had a new cap, free of charge. So guys, like I said, their customer service was first rate, which isn't something you can say about a lot of companies. So I highly recommend going through them if you want to buy your own cylinder. Their cylinders are, I think they sell both new and refurbished. This is a refurbished cylinder, so they go completely through it, put a new valve in it, they hydro test it, everything like that, make sure it's good to go. And then it's recertified for, I don't remember what it says, another 10 years or so, or I can't remember how often it needs to be recertified. I thought it was something like every 10 years or something. Then I also purchased a 9 amp or 9-inch grinder, because for our project we're going to be doing, I got a lot of heavy grinding I got to do, and my little 4.5-inch grinder just weren't going to cut it. So I wanted to get a nice big heavy-duty grinder that wasn't going to burn up the motor from all the grinding I was going to do, and also get it done in half the time. So guys, I also wanted to show you some of the accessories this thing did come with, because it didn't just come as the machine, which is very nice, because not having to buy a bunch of stuff for it right away is pretty sweet. Came with your gas hose, came with a regulator, came with the chain and some extra tips for the gun. The chain is for chaining the bottle up to the back, because it's got a rack on the back for holding the gas cylinder. Ground clamp. Got your whip or your MIG gun. But the one thing I did have to buy, it came with drive rolls, but it only came with 035 and 030 combination drive roll for hardwire. For those of you who don't know, flux core requires a knurled drive roll. And I went with 045 flux core, so I had to get 045 drive rolls that were knurled. And like I said, essentially this is the Miller-Matic 252, just the less fancy version of it. Both Hobart and Miller are owned by the same parent company, and a lot of the accessories are interchangeable. So literally, I bought Miller drive rolls, and they fit on this Hobart machine. So another reason I wanted to go with a larger welder like this over one of those inverter ones is because I can run much larger spools of wire. I've got here a 44-pound spool of hardwire and a 33-pound spool of dual shield flux core. I didn't want to have to go with those little 10-pound and 11-pound spools where in no time you're running out and you're having to swap out spools. I don't know, maybe to a lot of people that ain't that big a deal. I wanted to go with something that I could have bigger spools. Just my preference. Okay, so if you watched my video where I told you I was going to do this unboxing, I told you I bought this stuff for a project I've been working on. And I told you I was going to give you a sneak peek of that. So I will put a picture up right here to show you the project I've been working on. It's a big project, a long project. I'm working on it when I can. Guys, I literally started it in the spring and I have not made as much progress on it as I want to. It's just the way it goes. Working full time, a lot of overtime. We go do a lot of traveling during the summer for camping and whatnot, so I'll work on it when I can, but eventually I'm going to get a video out for that. It's going to be a multiple part series. So hopefully you guys are still with me and you haven't fallen asleep with all my yammering on, because now we're getting into today's project. So, like I said, I bought this cylinder, but it comes empty. I need to go get it filled at a gas supplier. I need a way to safely transport it. Right now, I don't really have a way to do that. I threw it up in my truck. There's really no way to safely strap this down. Guys, the cylinder empty is like 150 pounds. Once you fill it, I mean, it's a bear to move around. So what we're going to do is modify my little trailer to be able to hold this and transport it to go get it filled. So this is my little trailer. If you guys have watched my previous videos, you've seen me use this trailer before. But this is the trailer I'm going to be modifying to haul around the gas bottle. Little backstory on this trailer. I built this trailer back in high school, and since then I have modified it, changed it, and added on to it more times than I can count. This is kind of one of those projects that's never ending. I love this trailer. It is super handy. I use it all the time. And like I said, we're going to be modifying it or adding on to it yet again. So what we're going to start with doing is taking off the wood sides. So as this trailer sits right now, it's got 2-foot sides on it. What I'm going to be doing is adding another 2 feet onto these sides. I've actually wanted to do this for years now, because when I haul stuff like brush and whatnot, sometimes I got it heaped up twice the height of this trailer, so it'd be nice to have taller sides on it. And, you know, there's other things like you haul an appliance like a refrigerator or something, because I've used this trailer to help people move in the past. There's many reasons why I've wanted taller sides on this. So adding taller sides onto it now is a necessity for hauling that bottle, because that bottle, I believe, stands 60 plus inches tall. So a 24-inch side isn't exactly stable for keeping that bottle from tipping over. So to start with, I have to get these wooden sides off. I have bought some more steel that we'll cut up and we'll get welded onto this. Basically, the frame I'm adding onto the top of this is going to be a duplicate of this lower frame. So let's get into it. So look what I just seen when I took that first side off the trailer, hidden behind one of the vertical supports, an old wasp nest. Glad that thing wasn't still active. That could have ended badly. Okay, we got our sides unbolted, so now the next part is to start cutting up our pieces of steel that we're going to weld on for the new sides. So we got all our pieces cut, ready to be tacked up and welded. But when I was looking at the trailer, I noticed that the back corners, back here and here, have spread out. And I'm sure it's because over the years I have overloaded the trailer a time or two. It happens. So I need to straighten those before tacking up the new pieces. In order to do that, I think I'm also going to add some kind of support to them so it doesn't happen again down the road. But in order to do that, I got to pull the floor off. I'm not going to bore you guys with showing the floor coming off. It's pretty much the same as what the sides were, so we'll resume filming in a bit. Okay, so we got the floor off now. I'll show you what my plan is for straightening out those back supports and stiffening them up. So down in the corner here, my plan is to cut these welds out under there and there. I'm not really going to be able to get at these ones in the inside here, but I figure if I cut these ones out, I'm going to wrap a chain or something around the top side here down to the other side over here and pull it in until it's straight. And do the same thing on the other side. So now that I got the welds ground out, I put a strap on that side, connected to a come along on this side, and we're going to try winching on it until we get it straight. Hopefully that works, otherwise I'll have to figure something else out. So now that I got this corner pulled straight, what I'm going to do to stiffen it up is I got this square tubing. I'm going to cut a piece to go up all the way to here. We're going to weld it in and then weld this support to the square tubing, so that should hold it straight. I'll cap the tube too so it can't fill up with water. So for the caps on our square tube, I dug around in my scrap bin and I found another lawnmower blade. So we're just going to cut a couple of caps out of this. It'll work just fine because all it is to cap the tube to keep water out and make it look nice. Now I'm going to try and grind some of the paint off here so we have clean metal to weld on. And I'm also going to grind this weld down flat so the tube sits flat. Now because there's still weld in this corner here, I'm going to notch the tube a little bit so it sits flat against that as well. Feel like it didn't turn out too shabby. Now I can't get the square right tight up to the tube because of the weld in the corner, but I can show you the gap going all the way up. I would say that is pretty even all the way. So we got her straightened out pretty good. Now the trick here is I let the come along stay on it while it was cooling down. That'll help lock it in place instead of pulling while the weld cools. So while we wait for the other side to cool so we can take that come along off, this tab and this tab used to be where the plywood would mount. So obviously I'm not going to be able to use those anymore. So we're going to cut a little chunk of angle iron and weld it on here for this corner. And then up here a little later on, we'll just drill a hole into the angle iron here to mount it. Okay, we got our pieces made. Hole drilling them. You see I rounded off the corners nicely too. Just makes it look nicer, and then it's not sharp where someone's going to be catching themselves on it. Like I said, we'll weld them on in just a couple of minutes here down here. I want to finish up the last 2 welds on that corner post now that that's cooled off. And the last 2 welds are those outer ones that we had to grind off to get it to move in the first place. Okay, I wanted to show that this side also successfully came out nice and square. If I hold the friggin' square stir still. Beautiful. So now that we got these back corners straightened out and stiffened up, we can get back to the main event here of building this upper framing system. Before I do that, I'm going to have to grind down these welds right here in the corner so that our new angle iron can sit flush on it. And also here in the center, the centers were still bowed out a little bit, just slightly, so I threw the come along on there, gave it a couple clicks just to straighten them out, hold it pulled in while we tack up the new stuff and weld it up. Hopefully it holds it straight. If not, like I said, it wasn't bowed bad, just slightly. So let's get to it. Okay, so I got everything tacked up and ready for welding, but I want to take a moment to explain the process of how we got to this point, because I didn't show everything on camera, because the fabrication of doing all this is a lengthy and tedious process to which would have been very boring to watch. But you've seen me tack on the uprights and you've seen me tack on the horizontal pieces. But before tacking on the horizontal pieces, what I did is I went to each corner and I made sure it was straight both ways using a 6-foot level so that they were straight and true before tacking on the upper pieces. I didn't touch the middle pieces at that point. So then I tacked on these horizontal pieces, and from there I then took a 2-foot framing square and squared the center uprights with the upper pieces, and then got everything tacked up and locked in place. Like I said, it was a lengthy and tedious process, so it wasn't really worth filming. But let's get to welding this up now, so we get on to the next step. got everything welded, it's time to drill a whole bunch of holes so we have a way to mount our plywood sides. All the holes are drilled, so now it's time for some paint. I still got the lights on, and I don't want overspray on them, obviously. So what I like to do is wrap them with tin foil. It's cheap, it's easy to work with, it molds right around whatever you're trying to protect, and when you're done, it comes right back off nice and easy too. It's a little tip for you. So now I've got everything painted on this that I intended to paint. You can see that I didn't paint everything because I never intended to. This paint job was just a quick paint job to try and get the new steel painted and then the existing steel painted that you can see from the outside with the wood on. The rest of the stuff you're not going to see once the wood is on. Eventually I want to come back and do a nice paint job on this whole thing, but now is not the time for that. So I'm going to start putting the wood back on. I'm not going to film putting the floor on. It's kind of time consuming and boring, but I think I will film putting the sides and front on because I got new wood for the sides and I have to cut it to fit, and I just think that'll be worth filming. So let's get to it. So I had a little snag in my plan here. You can see behind me, I've got two sides up. I bought 2 brand new sheets of pressure treated plywood for those, which were $50 a piece. So I wanted to save some money on the front. So my plan was to take the original front piece, bolt her back up, and then take one of the old side pieces, cut it down, and put it up for the top piece, and just have the front be a 2-piece section. No big deal, would have worked just fine. But apparently along the way, my math wasn't mathing, and my pieces aren't big enough to cover the whole area. So, the problem is, I lost my board stretcher. Looked all over for it, and I can't find it. So I had to go out and spend another $50 on another piece of pressure treated plywood. So I'm going to unbolt that, measure up the new one, cut it down, and we will have all new sides, which is fine. Here's the crazy part. This old pressure treated plywood that started out on this trailer at the beginning of this project has been on this trailer since high school. I have never parked this trailer inside. It has sat out in the weather 365 days a year for over 20 years now. I'm actually kind of impressed with how long this pressure treated plywood lasts when it's not just sitting on the ground. It's very impressive. Also, another little note, the ugly paint job you see on here, that faded green or whatever, that paint job was about 19 years old. And it was those cheap dollar Walmart rattle cans. I was even more impressed with the fact that that cheap paint could last that long and not rust. Because again, this thing sits outside always. So, either way, I'm going to continue on here. So here's the final product. Turned out really nice. And if you can see up front here, there's the D-rings I was talking about for holding our our gas bottle. I'll show you that in use in just a minute here. Kind of give you a tour of the outside here. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. And it will be able to be used for years to come. And there we have it. The whole reason for this project, so I can hold my gas bottle. Now at the moment I just got bungees on it for this little demonstration. Clearly I'm going to put ratchet straps on it when it's getting hauled down the road, but this is what it'd be. And if you guys remember when the floor was off, directly underneath this, there's two supports. So that's why I chose to do this in the center, so that all that weight is supported underneath. So now that I got this trailer all finished up, I'm going to go get that argon bottle filled. And for those of you who want to see that new MIG welder of mine in action throwing sparks, you're going to have to stay tuned for future videos, because I will be putting that thing to work. So this is where I'm getting ready to wrap up this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed building this. I had a lot of fun doing it. As far as this trailer goes, like I said, this has kind of been one of those never-ending projects. I'm always adding on to this thing, modifying it, and I do still have more to do. Now that I made this taller, I would like to build a flip-down ramp / tailgate for this thing in the future. When that'll take place, I don't know. But that is a future project coming. I've also got littler things going for this trailer, like these marker lights got to go in the center, down at the bottom. Eventually I put those on. I've got 2 spare tires for this thing, and right now I just kind of carry them in the truck. I want to make a spare tire carrier for this thing. Like I said, I got a bunch more things I want to do to this thing. I've also got different rear lights that I want to put on this thing that are much fancier than what's on here. But yeah, as for this video, this is where I'm going to wrap it up. If you like this video, can you do me a favor? Give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Helps out my channel a lot, and I really appreciate it. Also, if you know someone else that might like my videos and my content, consider sharing this video. It really helps out the channel. I think this is where I'm going to sign off. Guys, again, I had a lot of fun doing this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and like always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.